And they've done it. Inter have overcome AC Milan in an incredible... Let's be real. AC Milan had already accepted defeat by the looks of this match. It wasn't the barn burner that we had hoped. It wasn't as incredible as we had hoped. Even as a Milan derby, this had very little bite to it and very little fight from AC Milan's side of things. I mean, 2 shots on target over 2 matches. That's, I hate to use this word, but pretty pathetic from AC Milan. But hey, I'm Adrian and welcome back to the channel, or just a big welcome if you're new here. And if you are, consider subscribing and let's talk. Now for Inter, they rolled out the exact same lineup that defeated AC Milan 2-0 in the exact same stadium. No changes from them whatsoever, as if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Milan had some fixing to do though, didn't they? They were way too open in the first half against Inter last week, and so Malik Chow was brought in for Kier, while Leong started ahead of Salamakis and Messias started ahead of the injured Benacer. For the most part, it was working for Milan in the very early exchanges. Well, Inter was still finding some joy in the attack at times, especially the attacks down the left that saw them then switch the play to the right, trying to take advantage of the empty space that Theo Hernandez was leaving. But overall, it was a night and day performance from Milan defensively in the first part of that first half. And going forward, the threat of Rafael Leão was felt. No, he didn't manage to show any real danger on his own until about the 37th minute, but just having him out there makes such a difference as he occupies the minds of the defenders. But yeah, as I was saying, in the 37th minute, he broke away from Darmian, stepped around Acerbi, and then rolled a strike wide of the goal. There was a handball in the build-up, however, from Leão, but still, you gotta hit that target there. That was one of 2 really notable moments in the first half from AC Milan, the other coming in about the 10th minute. Well-worked opportunity from Milan as Brahim Diaz got on the end of a pass around the edge of the box that he will be very disappointed with himself for not converting. It wasn't a tap-in, obviously, but his finish was far too central to where he made Onana look like a genius the way he landed on the ball. Take nothing from Onana, he's been brilliant for Inter, and that save ensured that AC Milan were still yet to score against him, because he didn't play in their first match from back in September. Lautaro probably looked the most dangerous player out there for Inter, though Barella and Dzeko had a few moments as well in the first half, as Dumfries got into space well down the right flank. His beef with Theo continued with a funny moment. Dumfries dove to head a ball he had no business heading. It was very low, just as Theo was swiping at it with his boot. Thankfully, Dumfries was fine, but it was a pretty funny moment. Feeds into the Dumfries reputation of being a meme player in some ways. But hey, credit to him, he's been decent lately. I also noticed just how much better Tonali looked in this match. He looked way more up for it, he looked like he had far more energy, and he wasn't getting outpaced by a 34-year-old Mkhitaryan, who, by the way, went off for Brozovic before the half was up. Not a bad replacement, however. It was interesting that in the second half of this match, Inter were largely in control of the ball in all of the right places, in the middle of the pitch or in Milan's half, as they were happy to keep moving the ball around and allow Milan to come to them before striking back, which they were seemingly loath to do at times, AC Milan that is. It felt like there was just far less intensity from the team that was chasing the result, which was surprising. But again, the player who I looked to that was really trying to make things happen for Milan would be Tonali. He felt like the only player that was working out there, as Krunic was again ineffectual and maybe should have been sent off at one point. Again, as we've gone over before, the biggest differences between these two sides is the depth of squad and even more so the midfield options. Sandro Tonali, for all that I torched him last week, was completely alone in this Milan midfield. It's funny in some ways that Rade Krunic has described himself as the balance between defense and attack in the Milan midfield, but Tonali was doing both seemingly alone at times. He was the link between the two and everything else that was good going forward for Milan, which there wasn't much to speak of in the second half. They just sort of, well, they were limp. The first glimmer of attack we really saw, a cross into the box that Rafael Leão headed down to Messias, or the path of Messias, but Onana read it well and collected it. With that in mind, it was surprising to see Inzaghi, the manager of the team that was winning, make 2 or 1.5 changes in the attack. One being Lukaku for Dzeko, the other being Gosens for Dumfries, hence the 1.5 since he's a wingback. But yeah, with AC Milan struggling in the attack, Pioli did absolutely nothing for a very long time. He just sat on his hands and hoped, and he was burned for it in the end. Lukaku began providing some danger almost straight away off of the bench. You could hear the crowd's voices collectively rise when he was on the ball. If someone was watching the second half without any context whatsoever, it would appear to them that Inter was playing like the team that was 2-0 down, not AC Milan. And so minutes after Lukaku comes on, it was no surprise that Inter scored once again. It was a bit of a choppy goal in the build-up, but the ball eventually came to Lautaro, who spun away from Tomori and finished at the near post past Maignan. Nice finish from Lautaro. Great images after with that celebration. And so there was still just one shot on target for Milan in this match. One shot in a do or die match when you're already behind by 2. It's incredible to me that this was the same team that managed to overcome Napoli. Granted, a Napoli that had fallen well out of form, but still, with the way that Milan has been playing of late, they look like they were able to find a little bit of form at the exact right moment to get past Napoli. Getting past Tottenham, well, I mean, they're a disaster, right? And so the match ended 1-0 Inter on the day, 3-0 Inter on aggregate, and if you were to take all of their meetings this year, the year 2023, not the season, just this year, then Inter will have 4 wins from 4. This is domination. This was a complete surrender from AC Milan. I mean, there was a moment in the second half stoppage time where Inter played the ball forward after defending a corner, and Tomori just hoofed it out of play. Was it a mishit due to fatigue or just surrender? It felt like a surrender. I think it was fatigue. And again, speaking of surrender, Inter had none of that in them, as the reactions from Barella and Lautaro would show you following that horrendous tackle from Krunic on Çalhanoğlu. Both of them jumped to the defense of their player, and both were rightfully hauled off by Inzaghi. This was a team with a winning mentality and fight versus a team that just lay down and died. And speaking of Inzaghi, he really needs to get some appreciation for what he has managed to do with this Inter side. He came into a difficult situation following Conte, and while some signings were made, he was basically told that he has to make do with what he's given, and he's done so to great effect. Yes, their Serie A campaign fell off a little bit at times this season, but he still kept their performances at a level that's high enough to see them win the Supercoppa already, and they now have 2 finals to look forward to, the Coppa Italia and the Champions League, for the first time since they last won it in 2010. And this coming out of a group that had Bayern and Barca in it. For AC Milan's part, it is so blatantly obvious that they need to invest in their squad and cut a lot of really mid-tier players. Looking at their attack was depressing at times, especially when Macias, Origi, and Salamakis were on the pitch. Well, I mean, respect to Origi, but you get me. The defense, in a bad way, but serviceable. Perhaps a right back would help, but the midfield and the attack need addressing yesterday. There are some who will raise questions of Pioli, and I think it's fair to always ask questions of someone. I don't think he should lose his job yet. Giving up after one poor season is exactly the kind of reactionary nonsense that gets teams into even more trouble, but he does have some blood on his hands with how he set the team up in the first leg and his iceberg-esque speed when it comes to making substitutions in the attack. Maybe he doesn't make them because he has no faith in his backup players, which is fair, just as it's fair to be a bit critical of Pioli. He has shown that he can make changes in the past, as he switched to a back 3 in January to settle things in defense and they started getting results, but he hasn't done so fast enough here to put AC Milan in the final. And let's be honest, Inter were completely deserving winners. So they will be sleeping soundly knowing that they are playing in the final, but anxiously awaiting the result from today to know who they will be playing. Whoever it is, it's going to be tough, but Inter have proven that they can defend well and snatch goals on the counter. Anyways, guys, I'll be back again with another video tomorrow. Thanks for watching and enjoy the football. Ciao.